Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. Today we are going to be talking about, well, it's kind of useless me holding up the book. It is Winston Churchill's The Gathering Storm, which is the first volume of his memoir slash history of the Second World War. He wrote these in the years directly after the Second World War. It was actually what really made him the money that for him to live out the rest of his life in relative comfort. So these are a very interesting historical document. They're a way into the mind of Winston Churchill, who by any measure really is one of the giants of the 20th century, and certainly a giant of Britain's 20th century. So I've read a couple of books on Churchill over the last year or so, and this was something I really wanted to get my hands on. And I found it in a second-hand bookshop. You can buy like Penguin editions. There's also a Bloomsbury, I think, abridged single-volume edition. For reference, this is the first volume of 6 that he wrote. And so it is a very, very, very long work. And so yeah, there is a single volume, but I believe it must be abridged, or you can buy these each volume separately from Penguin and a variety of sources. Obviously, it's pretty widely published, so yeah, you can get a bunch of different editions. This is a Castle edition, and I couldn't quite figure out when this was printed. In the front of the book, it says that this is a new edition, revised and reset, published November 1949. I'm not sure, because this isn't like the standard publishing format that we have today. It certainly is a very old edition. I'm not sure if that means it definitely was printed in 1949. I've had a look through the other editions. They have later dates for them, so it could be anywhere as late as the 70s. I don't think it's much later than that. So yeah, as I say, this is the first volume. I read this over about a week. It's in this print, which is fairly average. It runs to about 600 pages, and then it has a whole bunch of appendices on basically the appendices are a lot of technical details. Churchill dictated this book, and you can tell he dictated the book because the way it's written, he does have a way with words, though, and that is one of the things. It's fairly dry stuff. A lot of the stuff that he writes about in here, he wasn't directly involved in, because, as the title suggests, it's about the Gathering Storm. It's about the time between really the First World War, the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, and towards the end of the book, you get to things like it gets to the outbreak of war, but and the operation in Narvik, in the north, obviously, but it's all about the appeasement and what could have possibly been done to stop Hitler. At that time, Churchill wasn't necessarily at the height of, close to the very top of power. He certainly had connections with people like Austen, Stuart Chamberlain, two separate people, Austen Chamberlain and Stuart Chamberlain, Anthony Eden, Baldwin, like all of these people. He certainly had connections with them, but he wasn't right in the middle of these meetings. So he is writing somewhat from a historical, like a historian's lens, or journalist's lens is probably more appropriate to say. And he's writing obviously significantly after the time for a lot of these events. In terms of, he uses a lot of his own letters. He reprints a lot of his own letters, a lot of his own speeches. And obviously it's going to be massively biased in his favor. He's going to paint himself in the best light possible. But I found it very, very interesting, particularly because it has such a focus on the British politics and the workings of the British government. I think it's fascinating. You don't really get that in more modern accounts of the war, probably because it's less relevant. As the historical understanding of the war has gone on, it has become less relevant to the way we write about it. But it's very, very interesting to hear about. So overall, like, I really enjoyed it. It's a bit of a niche thing to read. I believe, like, and I expect subsequent volumes are going to be more interesting, particularly when Churchill becomes Prime Minister. And just for reference, I don't want to go too much into biographical detail because some people watching this won't necessarily know Churchill's biography that well, but it covers that time between the wars when Churchill was in the wilderness, and then slowly moves his way back into the inner circle of power, to the outbreak of war, where he gets brought back into the Admiralty. He becomes the first Lord of the Admiralty again. He held that position during the First World War, and then commanded, or didn't command necessarily the Navy, but certainly had a large hand in planning the naval strategy for the early period of the war. Obviously, later he becomes Prime Minister, and that will be detailed in later volumes. And what he does write here in the introduction is very interesting in that he performed a lot of his work by correspondence, by dictating to his secretaries, who would write memos, and they would write letters, and they would write various instructions and minutes and all those sorts of things. And so the day-to-day work for a big stretch of the war is recorded, if effectively verbatim, from Churchill's mouth. The things he was thinking, the things that he did. And so I believe that those later volumes are going to be very, very interesting, because there'll probably be a lot of just reproductions of those sorts of things. So I don't want to babble on for too long about this. It's a very good book if you want to pick it up. Obviously, you can find some very beautiful editions. This I really like. I've got all the 6 editions. They look exactly the same. They look great on the shelf, but you can find even cheap editions. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know if you've read the book. Let me know down below what you thought. If you've read later volumes, let me know what you thought. And if you want to see more videos like this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I try to release a video or 2 every week. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.